Hey guys, Justin from the Players Take here. I just wanted to do a quick intro for this podcast. Sorry for the poor audio. I'm recording on my gaming headset microphone, not the normal one that we use for the episodes. I just wanted to kind of preface this episode. We had a bit of an issue with Montrell's microphone during this episode. It wasn't recording for about two-thirds of the episode, so he's a little difficult to hear. We know that, but there's not. Unfortunately, I was not able to fix this in post. It would have been very patchy and really wouldn't have sounded good. So I didn't really want to take this section out. It would have been really jarring in my opinion. So kind of figured it would be better to just kind of play it and let you guys hear it the way we recorded it organically, even though he is difficult to hear. So we do apologize for that. We will make sure this does not happen going forward. We know, usually our audio quality is pretty good. So this was kind of a one-time event, hopefully, that we don't have happen again. And once again, do apologize for that. Hopefully, you guys can enjoy this episode regardless. But I'm going to pass it off to myself for episode 27.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Players Take, episode 27. I'm your host, Justin DeSimone, joined by my co-host, Montrell Rice.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
For those of you who haven't listened before, the Players Take is our weekly podcast where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. It posts at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and your favorite podcast app of choice. So, some housekeeping before we get started. We're doing a normal episode this week. We're doing a normal episode next week.
Mm-hmm.
The subsequent 2 weeks, so the week of the 19th of July, I think, and the 26th, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
We will be posting 2 evergreen episodes, one each week, again, because I'm going to be out of town the first week. Montrell is going to be out of town the second week, I believe, right? That's right?
Well, I'll be doing swimming stuff.
Okay, that's right. You're not going to be available.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing 2 more Players Take reflections like we did last week on the Nintendo GameCube. If you listen to it, so it's going to be more like that. And then after that, we will resume normal episodes. I think there's going to be another week where you're not available.
And
August, right?
It's going to be a third week.
But that's far off. We'll mention that next time.
Yeah.
Well, we'll mention that before that comes. So, but after middle of August, we should be back to the normal schedule pretty much for a while.
Yep.
So, all right. It's been a couple weeks. I'm excited. There's a lot of news to talk about. Some exciting stuff happened. Let's jump into it with what we've been playing. Do you want to get started?
Yeah, you can go first.
Oh, I'll go first.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't have much to. Well, I was gone most of the week last week on vacation. It was a wonderful vacation, but didn't have a ton of time to play games. So I played a little bit of Grim Dawn and Fell Arbiter's Mark before I left.
Yeah.
After we did the last set of recordings, but not much more to say on those. However, while I was gone, I had my Switch with me. Obviously, while I was traveling on the plane, blah blah blah. I had some downtime here and there. Got back into The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. And now, I don't know if I've fully gone into my opinion on this game on the podcast. I mentioned it in small little bursts.
Yeah,
you sort of know my opinion. Yeah. You've not played this game, right?
No.
Okay.
I have not
so I played it when it came out. Obviously, I bought a Switch on release night. I got Zelda with it. And I played it for about 20 or 30 hours, and I did not really like it very much.
Okay.
I didn't think it was a great game. I did not think it was the 10s that everyone was giving it. The praise I thought was overblown. At the time, I thought it was more around a 7. You know, that was kind of my feeling on it. I thought it was a good game. I didn't really feel like it was a good Zelda game. I thought it was kind of bare bones compared to other open world games. and I never really went back to it. I came back to it this time. I really wanted to give this game another shot because I felt like, because the way I played it the first time, I was very objective focused. I was really focused on clearing the whole, like, not clearing the map, but revealing the whole map. Because when you start the game, the map is obscured. Like, there's like a fog of war, basically.
Yeah.
And you have to go unlock the map. Like, you have to go to specific places that reveal portions of the map for you. You know, like Ubisoft Towers or whatever the hell.
Oh.
And I basically ran around the map, unlocked the whole map, did things along the way as I ran into them, but I did not do a lot of exploring within the areas, within the given areas within the game. And I think that was a lot of the reason why, and I started to kind of think about this over time recently, is that I just think that was a bad way to experience the game, even though the game lets you do that.
Yeah.
And that is kind of the design of the game, is that you can do whatever you want, wherever you want, however you want. It just didn't work for me. Like, I wasn't experiencing the world. I was kind of driving by it. And I was talking to Dennison about this the other day, and he kind of put it in a good way. I was playing it like an adult. like somebody who doesn't have a lot of time to play a game, right? And he's kind of right. Like, that's really how I was playing it. I was playing it like I don't have time to go look in the nooks and crannies and smell the roses and find every little thing. And I'm going to be honest, I just don't think the game works very well that way. Like, I think you don't. The game gets really disjointed. Your progression is completely out of whack. You're getting weapons that are way more powerful than you should be at the level of playtime you have. You're not getting the materials at a pace you should be getting them at. Like, it's just you can do things, really high level things, and then there's like low level things that you can't do because you haven't like found the materials for them, because you're not in areas where they are anymore, but you need them for certain things, you know, for like armor crafting and stuff like that. So this time I decided to take the opposite approach, where I am going through the areas in the game with a fine-tooth comb and like legitimately exploring them to completion, pretty much, as much as I can, before I move on to the next area. So I've done the Great Plateau, which is the area you started, and I've done 2 other areas, and I'm not even done with the second area yet. And I've been playing for probably about 15 hours so far.
So how are you enjoying it?
And I'm having way more fun with it. I'm playing it at my own pace. The progression is a lot more steady.
Okay.
And it makes more sense, and I think I don't want to say it's Nintendo's intent, but it feels that way. You know, it really feels that way, because I'm not running into things I can't do, and it's just fun. Like, I'm really going through the map, and I'm putting stamps on the map of where I've been and things I've done, to kind of mark those things.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, I'm just excited to go back in. I want to keep playing it. Like, I've been thinking about it. It's like, it's weird. It's interesting.
That's a very interesting conversation that a lot of people don't really have. A game can be fun the way the player plays it.
Yes. Well,
or it can be unfun.
I've had a really interesting epiphany with this whole situation with Zelda, because the way you play the game really mattered in this case. And that doesn't usually matter a lot of the time. A lot of games don't allow you to play it in different ways, but this game really does. And I'm thinking about other open world games, like The Witcher is a good example. And I played The Witcher the way I'm playing Zelda now, where I was going through the game with a fine-tooth comb, and I didn't rush through the story in that game, and I enjoyed the hell out of that game, right?
Yeah.
And I think if I had done the opposite, it's like I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. But the funny part is I don't necessarily have time to play every game this way. So that's kind of the problem. It's kind of this weird give and take. But it is funny that your experience with the game, or your enjoyment level of the game, can change so much with just how you approach the way you play the game, you know? And it's like, because now I'm playing it now, and I'm like, I'm way higher on the game than I was. I still think it's not a great Zelda game. I think the design of the game is very, very like it's on the other side of the spectrum from Zelda in a lot of ways, because my problems with the game still exist. I still do not like the design. I don't like the fact that there are no real traditional dungeons.
Yeah.
I don't like the fact that the items, like, the hook shot and the iron boots and things like that aren't in the game at all.
Yeah.
And I don't like the way they handled that stuff, because it's basically just not there for the most part. And I don't like that element of it. I want that Zelda-y feel back. And I'm really hoping with Breath of the Wild 2 that they kind of integrate that stuff kind of back in, and they use it in the open world, right? Yeah. So you have your more traditional setup of maybe 6 to 8 dungeons, and those dungeons have items in them, and those items, you need those items to complete those dungeons, but then you can unlock portions of the world or do things in the world with those items that you need them for, right? And I know that's like counterintuitive to the way they designed Breath of the Wild,
That is,
but that's Zelda though, right? Is
one can debate that. I can definitely debate that it's not Zelda.
No, I
can debate you that it's a different version of Zelda that we didn't grow up with, but original Zelda fans did grow up with.
Sure, the first Zelda. But Zelda, that's the only one though. Like after that
was the primary intent of that franchise, but unfortunately due to limitations they had to go to another route.
True, but I would argue that Link to the Past is the happy medium between both styles.
That's true.
And they've achieved it already. They've achieved that before, so they can do it again.
They can.
And they can make it satisfying.
I think the ultimate one between both is A Link Between Worlds. How you can rent the stuff out. That whole
See, I hate that system. I really hated that system.
I think it's cool because I can do dungeons in the way I want to.
I know, but I don't like that system. And Breath of the Wild kind of has some of that because you can buy things.
Yeah.
You can buy certain items and weapons and equipment and stuff. I would prefer they do Link to the Past more than Link Between Worlds.
Okay.
I think Link Between Worlds suffered from the fact that you could rent the items just took away from that.
The importance of the items?
Yes, and it also took away from the ingenuity of the dungeons, right?
Yeah.
Is like once you figured out what the item for the dungeon was, the dungeon became easy. It wasn't really like, it wasn't, because the dungeons in Link to the Past, dude, like some of them, you don't get the item until really deep into the dungeon. You have to figure out how to get through the whole dungeon. Like it's a really hard puzzle, They're really difficult puzzles, and I don't feel like more recent Zeldas are like that anymore, and that's what I miss. So I want that back with the exploration of Breath of the Wild. I want that all in one game, and I'm really hoping Breath of the Wild 2 is that game. That's what I'm hoping for.
What I hope for, well, I haven't played the game yet, but from what everyone's opinion on the game, I do want traditional dungeons, but like I said, I haven't played Breath of the Wild. I always wanted a nice medium, how Link to the Past was, where you have the dungeons and then you have the open world aspect of it. But I wanted the open world. I don't want the open world to limit me.
Yeah.
Because I can't, like, for instance, like Hyrule Field in 64 version, right? You need a opponent to go to one version of the map.
To certain areas, yeah.
I don't want that. I want, if I go to the sand dungeon, I can go to the last dungeon on the map, right?
Yeah.
But when I get into that dungeon, I'm like, okay, I obviously can't finish this dungeon because I don't have this weapon, or I don't have this armor, I don't have this item. So I come back and I'm like, okay, I'm looking forward to coming back to this because but it's still an open world game, but it's just your choice.
You can do it.
Yeah.
You can pull it off. That's what I'm saying about Link to the Past. They don't gatekeep the way Ocarina of Time and like Majora's Mask did in that way. Like Link to the Past, you can go anywhere on the map pretty much for the most part, and there were certain things that were blocked off because you didn't have certain items yet, like the power glove or bombs or what have you, whatever the specific item was. But they didn't lock you off from going to the desert. Like you could go, and maybe you couldn't do anything there, but you could go. It's like, so you can design the world in such a way that not having items yet doesn't feel gatekeepy.
Yeah.
Even though it is, And in Link to the Past, another credit to that game is that you could do the dungeons, not the first 3, but you could do the Dark World dungeons out of order. You don't have you don't have to do them all in the same order every time you play the game.
And that's another interesting thing that other Zeldas really didn't do.
Exactly, and that's something that I think I want them to bring that back.
Yeah.
You know, like let you have traditional dungeons, have the items, but let you design them in such a way that you can do them out of order.
Yeah,
you know,
have like the second act of the game like that. 'Cause
yes.
That was the second act, Link Between Worlds, Link to the Past. Once you got the mirror, that was the second act of the game.
Yes.
The Dark World, you can do anything.
And you had key items from the first part of the game that were used in every dungeon.
Yes.
That allowed you to do things in every dungeon, but the items within those dungeons weren't needed in other dungeons, generally speaking. Right? They might be needed in the open world in certain places, but they weren't necessarily needed in the other dungeons.
Yeah.
And then Ganon's castle used all the items to help you progress in certain ways.
Yep.
So that's the kind of design that I want to see in Breath of the Wild 2, combined with the open world aspects of Breath of the Wild.
I don't think we're going to get that. Because a lot of people praise the hell out of this game to the fact it would have to be on the creators' discretion to be like, okay, the open world was cool, but we could have done better with the puzzles or this and the third. Because a lot of people were just like, 10 out of 10, nothing's wrong with this game.
Yeah.
And if they do copy and paste it over, hopefully they improve the combat. Because from what I looked at, the Let's Play and stuff like that, it's still that's the same.
It's the worst part of the game.
Yeah.
It's so bad, dude. Yeah, it's the Z targeting. It feels just like Ocarina of Time. It's a little bit more fluid, but I honestly would argue that Ocarina of Time feels better than this game does, because Link's a little loose sometimes, where he doesn't control perfectly, and I felt like in Ocarina of Time, Link he's solid. He's got a limited move set, but you know how to. It's easy to control him. I felt like, you know, and I felt like combat in that game was pretty easy, actually. You know, and in this game, it's not hard, but when you're fighting a giant group of enemies, it's kind of annoying sometimes because you can only target one at a time, and then they start to surround you, and it's like you don't. It just doesn't feel good, you know. So there's issues with the game. As I said, I'm enjoying it a lot more. I still love the shrines. I don't mind the weapon durability as much as other people did. I look at the weapons as kind of like resources. Yeah. It ticks a weird box in my brain with that. And honestly, the fact that your weapons break makes finding chests exciting, because if you get a weapon in a chest, it's like, oh, have I seen this weapon before? Maybe not, and it's a new weapon, or even if it's not a new weapon, it's just another resource, you know. Yeah. So I don't mind that part of it. The cooking is cool. I find the cooking fun enough. I do find it annoying. I don't think there's a list of recipes that you've cooked in the game anywhere, which I really wish there was, because I would like to know how to cook certain things that I've cooked before, because there's so many different things you can cook that it's impossible to keep track of. You know, you kind of need a guide for that. The other thing is stamps. I really wish there was no limit on stamps that you could put on the map. You can only have 100 at a time, and I've already used 100 in the 2 areas I've been through. And you know, it's not a big issue for a lot of people, but for me, it's like that's how I marked where I've gone. And it's kind of an OCD thing for me. So I imagine it's probably a hardware limitation thing. If you had 1,000 stamps on the map, it would probably lag the map out to the point where the Switch would crash. I'm sure. So I'm probably not going to get that ultimately, but that would be nice if they could figure it out. But I'm enjoying the game a lot. I really want to keep playing it. Problem is timing is poor with this, because Fire Emblem comes out in 2 weeks.
I feel like once the summer is over with, I feel like we're gonna have a lot of free time to play.
Which isn't that counterintuitive though? Isn't the summer when we're supposed to have free time?
We have spouses and stuff.
Oh God, I've had to go on 3 trips too, Luke, dude. Oh,
it was a particularly bad time for you.
Yeah, no, it's just been a bad summer for me in general. But yeah. So I mean, I am hoping to have more time. The problem is, dude, once we hit end of August, it's just an avalanche of games. So
I'm under the impression that I'm already accepted the fact that I'm not going to be able to play every game.
No, for sure, 100%. Yeah. But I'm going to try.
Yeah.
I'm going to try.
I feel like during the wintertime, that's when I get a lot of my gaming done, because
me too.
Obviously, our spouse is not going to want to go out when it's cold.
Yeah, November, December is good time.
So I feel like I'm going to get a lot done during that week. So that's why I'm not really worried about it.
Yeah.
Speaking of what I'm worried about, like I guess only the games I have played was League of Legends this week, past week. Only reason is because I took my laptop over to my girlfriend's house where I was at for that week. I was over there like almost the entire week.
Yeah.
I did gain a rank, back in platinum. So
You're such a degenerate. Wait, are you playing on your Smurf account still, or you're?
I'm playing on my Smurf account.
Okay, all right. I've been thinking about playing Dota, man.
Just do it, man.
I've been thinking about it, dude. I kind of want to. I just kind of want to just play some pubs, go dominate some people with timber saw, man. Like cut some trees down.
So I stopped playing TFT mode or auto chess mode.
Does it kind of get boring, or is it?
To me, it's getting boring. It's a nice game to pick up and play. I will say that. Like I do see the appeal of it. I wouldn't watch it though. Like a lot of streamers are playing it, and it's just not a fun game to watch.
Really?
Like in my opinion, it's a fun game to actually play. When you set up everybody, and they got these different classes and stuff like that in the game. Like you got elementalists, you got shapeshifters, and things of that nature that have different buffs and things of that nature. So I think that's pretty cool. I don't know if I think Dota has the same kind of class system as well with their characters.
Yeah.
So. I think it's pretty cool.
How does it work though? Like, what's the progression in the game? Is it almost like a card game where you like get different units that you get access to, and you?
So particularly in this game, you have different. Your cards are your characters.
Yeah, but do you have to like get packs to get the characters?
Pretty much.
Okay.
It's not like a pay to win. It's like kind of randomized.
Okay, so you can buy cosmetics though. That's where they get their money.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can buy like cosmetics for your little avatar dude or whatever, but besides that, like you get items that are in the game, but they do different functions in that mode.
Yeah,
So say like if I get 3 Akalis, I can level up my Akali to like a bigger.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so higher rank version.
Yeah, or I can put 3 Akalis on the field.
Okay.
So I can do either or. Same thing with like all the other characters and everything like that. So.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. I mean, I'm gonna get back into Xenoblade Chronicles 2 because I'm really interested in the story right now. And then God of War, I'm just gonna finish that.
Dude, how are you not done with this game yet? How long have you been playing it for?
Because for a while.
I mean, it is a long game, admittedly.
Because I'm trying to like finish, like not 100% it, but I'm really interested in the lore and everything.
Man, I want to go back and platinum it.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the lore, and I hate it because like I can't just blast through this game because I'm really liking the lore of this game. Not only the combat is good, but like I will stop in the middle of like rowing the boat just to hear.
Yep. Totally, dude. Yeah. So, it's just to hear Kratos and Atreus talk. Yeah.
So especially when the head guy is like talking telling stories about Zeus and everybody else. Zeus, but,
Thor and
everybody
Odin.
else. So it's really interesting lore because it's so counterintuitive to how you view Valhalla and how other mythos talk about lore.
And the Asgardians and everything,
The Asgardians. They're like these good people, but they're like total ass wipes here.
Yeah, man, dude. So good.
So I like that, but...
All right, well, when you're done with it, man, we'll go deep into it. Yeah. Do a spoiler discussion. But all right, let's move on to news for the week. So this happened this morning, day of recording. Nintendo has announced the Nintendo Switch Lite,
or Light Switch,
as Dwayne said at work today. Oh, God, the dad joke. He just got a thing for dad jokes. So this is going to be a dedicated handheld device. There's going to be no Joy-Cons on this thing. You're not going to be able to take controllers off the side. It's just one piece. There's no dock.
Yep.
It is going to be $199.99.
Yep.
So $200.
Should be a little cheaper.
Yeah. It's going to have a bit of a better battery life. And that is really the only feature that is different beyond the fact that it's a dedicated handheld.
About the D-pad?
Yeah, that's true. There's going to be a real D-pad, like Nintendo's D-pad is going to be on the left side of the device on that controller rather than the buttons they have now. Since there's no Joy-Cons, they put the real D-pad on because they realize that it is superior to anything. Yeah. I mean, for real. But other than that, there's really no big huge selling point to this thing. Beyond that,
I think that's a good. So we both have Switches. So
yes.
I don't think it's a selling point for us, but for people who want to get into the Switch,
yeah,
I feel like this is huge for them.
Well, okay, I'm gonna be honest. I play my Switch, I'd say 90% of the time in handheld mode.
Yeah, I barely put it on screen.
And this is attractive to me for that reason. And I'm kind of a psychopath, and I'm thinking of buying one of these anyways and having 2 Switches. One that I have at home and one that I bring with me.
That's ridiculous. That's stupid, dude.
I am so sick and tired of undocking my Switch and putting it in my stupid fucking carrying case and putting it in my backpack every day. I'm so tired of it.
You're gonna spend $200
just so I don't have to do that.
Like 5 minutes.
Yes,
so
yes, I'm a psychopath. I realize that. I'm probably not going to buy one of these. I will say though, I am debating though in my head of trading my Switch in
cool.
for this.
Yeah.
Because as I said, I don't play on my TV that often. The problem I have is for games like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, any kind of story-driven game, JRPGs like that, I really like to play those on TV.
Yeah.
I don't like to play those in handheld mode. I really didn't like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in handheld mode, so that's what I'm worried about. Games like that don't work super well in handheld mode for me, I don't want to lock myself out of the option to play it on my television.
Yeah. Like I said, I think this is more so targeted towards people who are either on the fence about the Switch or who really want it, but they didn't want to price out, shell out $300, because that was my biggest concern when I bought the game. I'm like, man, I got shell out $300 for this.
Well, yeah, the price hasn't gone down at all in 2 years. Like, it's really difficult to find a Switch for less than $260, $270.
Yeah,
like it's crazy.
Yeah, I consider that a deal.
I know.
I bought mine. Like,
anything off is a deal. The main thing, I know some people will probably think I'm insane for like trading my Switch in for this, but the thing is, the battery life, depending on how long it is compared to the regular Switch, that is a massive selling point for me. Like, massive selling point for me.
That's a bad idea, because I actually thought about it.
Yeah.
Plus, it kind of looks cooler than the new.
Oh, for sure. The colors, dude. I want that turquoise one so bad. Are you kidding me? Or the Pokemon one
the
that
Pokemon
they're doing.
Cool. I just like the plain yellow one to me.
I do like the yellow one too, but yeah, no, the colors are way better. I hate my Switch colors. I have the gray. I have the gray Switch.
Yeah, I do too.
With the gray Joy-Cons, and it looks like ass.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And dude, like, because they didn't have. I bought it at Walmart. They didn't have any of the neon ones, but even that one I don't like very much. So I like this better because it is one solid color. But it's just like locking myself out of the TV is like kind of a. But I think with the release or the reveal of this thing, I think the reveal of an XL Switch,
I think that will come next year.
Is coming
in 2020
soon.
Yeah.
And it makes me think, like, should I just wait for that?
That's what I'm waiting for. I'm gonna wait at least a year.
Yeah.
Because like you said, I barely play my Switch on the TV. Only time I do is when I'm playing party games with like my girl.
Yeah. Well, yeah. When I was playing like Smash Bros. Right, when we played it together, or when I was playing with you guys online, I played that on the TV too.
Yeah. So
right.
I mean, keep it for that reason. But like, if I didn't have any real obligations just outside of that, I would probably trade this in a heartbeat just to get the new one or the Lite, because I think it's pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
And the battery life and the
dude, if they can double the battery life of this thing, I mean, this is a perfect handheld.
Yeah, because they don't
straight
have to
up
worry about charging up the Joy-Cons or anything like that. Even though
yes.
they have their own separate batteries.
Well, yeah, no, there's no HT rumble. They don't have to charge the Joy-Cons at all times.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's some potentially going to be some new hardware in this thing, like a new chip and stuff that I saw an article about today. So all that combined is going to make the battery life just naturally better, and hopefully they got a better battery on top of it that's even better than the one they originally had. So that could, like, I could see it potentially doubling the battery life, and if that's the case, you could get 10 hours out of this thing rather than the 5 or 6 you get now.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you're playing Zelda, you only get like 3 if you're lucky.
Yeah.
You know? And that is really short. That's 3 hours is nothing for a handheld. Like, I expect or I want, in a perfect world, I want 10 to 15, you know, without having to charge it. So that is a big selling point for me, but I don't know if it's enough to make me trade my current Switch in. you know?
Yeah, that's the whole point. That's the part that's really getting me. Like I said, and also I want to wait till next year to see if they are going to announce some kind of XL version of the game or of the console. But I mean, I think it's perfect. I mean, their sales are gonna jump up, especially when Pokemon comes out, because it's supposed to be releasing on the side of that. So
yeah, they've got an interesting strategy for the fall with this. Now, this is coming out the same week that Link's Awakening is coming out.
Okay.
They got Luigi's Mansion 3 coming in. It doesn't have a date, but I would assume it's coming in October to coincide with Halloween. And I mean that's the date that's the time frame that makes sense given Pokemon and Zelda. And then Pokemon in November. I mean they've got a really good lineup this fall. Yeah. Honestly,
not to mention the summertime, you got games coming out, so people are gonna
Astral Chain, Daemon X Machina, I think comes out in the next month or two, right?
You got Fire Emblem coming out this
month.
So
they've had a really strong. This back half of the year is really strong for the Nintendo. So, I'm really impressed with what they've managed to do. Like this is because I was worried about them after 2017 that they had already blown their load and they weren't going to have anything, for a few years. And it's like they've been pretty solid actually for the most part. So,
not to mention like just the fans have been. The word of mouth traveling on the Switch has really upped the sales of this.
God, this thing's become such an indie machine too. Yeah. Like we're gonna talk about this later when we get to the topic of the show. But the way Nintendo has kind of taken the indie space and made it Switch is the place to put your game if you're an indie is just it's like masterful in my opinion.
And I think I mentioned that on last podcast. Like I will play a lot of these indies if they were portable, and a lot of them are portable.
Well, dude, there's one in particular. There's this game called Crosscode that came out on PC last year.
Yeah.
It is like it's a 2D sprite based RPG that is like it takes place in it's a person who plays an MMO basically. Yeah. It's like dot hack kind of thing.
Yeah.
The game looks so interesting to me, but it's only on PC right now, and I'm so desperate for this game to be on Switch. And they announced it's going to be on Switch, and they announced it for 2019, but there's been no news. It's like that's exactly the kind of thing for me is like I love these smaller games on Switch. Like Wargroove was a great game for Switch. It's like that is not a game I want to play on a PS4. On my TV. That's exactly kind of my point. I treat the Switch like a handheld. The only exceptions really are Nintendo's first party games, like Fire Emblem, Xenoblade, stuff like that. So it's a really really good. It's just such a good device, man. So this is a good way to fill. It's weird because the Switch's logo is like the Joy-Cons coming together, and that's not going to be possible on this device. So it is a little weird, but hey, man, I think it's going to work fine. I think $200 for this thing. I think it's a little pricey, personally. I would have liked to have seen them go down to the 170 like they had with the 3DS. Would have been perfect, and then they could have reduced the price of the regular Switch to $250 or even $225 in anticipation of doing an XL that sells at $300, right?
I think they'll probably discontinue the regular ones.
Yeah.
The XL or the Mini.
Yeah.
Or the Lite, rather.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. I mean, the game is just broiled in controversy.
Oh my goodness.
I am genuinely curious how that game's gonna do, because
I don't know, man. I just want to touch on one thing with them. Like, I don't know what's going on with the Pokemon fan base, but they're so upset that they can't have their national Pokédex. This is like the ugly side of gamers that we always talk about on the podcast.
Yeah.
They're accusing one of the creators of rape.
Yeah.
Someone made an actual fake account on Twitter and accused him of rape.
Yeah.
And they used a name on there, and a lot of people were cross-checking the names and trying to see if it was the letters were jumbled up to make another person's name on the staff, and no one can find anything. So these are just random allegations from a fake account.
Yeah.
So I mean,
it's gotten wild, dude. Like the game is embroiled in controversy in a weird way now, where it's like everything that comes out about this game is like people are losing their minds about it.
I mean, it's bad because we had expressed our issues with the game, with Pokemon in general. And now it seems like everything's coming out at the same time. Like a lot of people are just randomly frustrated now, and
for no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just came out of nowhere for me. So
yeah, and the problem is dude, it's too far into development for any of this stuff to change.
Exactly.
Like we just have to accept. We either have to accept what it is and play the game anyways, or don't play the game. You know, those are your options at this point. Yelling at them on the internet, hurling insults at them, slandering developers, that's not going to get you what you want, you know? And honestly, that just makes us all look bad. So I don't know. But it is wild how controversial this game has become in such a short time frame. It's only been like a month.
I was afraid this was going to happen. I knew people were going to get fed up with the game and just be like, now I'm upset.
Well, and like we talked about last time we did a regular episode, they like Game Freak pushed themselves into this corner.
Yeah.
So part of this is on them.
Yeah.
And they didn't think the long term out very well, and they just kept adding Pokemon to the point where it's unreasonable to expect them to put every Pokemon in every game.
Pokemon burst.
Yeah, and it did. Yeah, and unfortunately, this is the result of it. I think people weren't expecting it, and if you weren't, you're kind of a fool to me. Because did you really think eventually they'd be able to add 1,000 Pokemon to every single Pokemon game and make animations for every Pokemon? Like,
I knew they were going to have to either cut something or just
cut corners too.
With the franchise,
dude. The thing for me that's so frustrating about it is I was like, they keep showing battles in some of the promotional trailers and stuff, and dude, the animations look bad. They do look bad. It's not like that's not like complaint. Yeah, it's definitely a valid complaint, but they've always looked bad. But the thing is, you could chalk it up to hardware limitations. Now it's just like I don't think they have time to make good animations. And I was thinking about it in my head is like, dude, if Pokemon was firing on all cylinders, what it would look like would be like a 3D representation of the show. Yeah. You know, where like you tell a Pokemon to use Tackle and it literally runs at the other Pokemon and it actually physically hits them with Tackle, you know, but that's not what happens in this game. Yeah, it's literally they just like wiggle forward a little bit and then, you know, a little
the camera switches
and like something, you know, you see like a POW animation or whatever.
The only game I see so far to actually do that is Pokemon Battle Revolution.
Yeah.
The game came out 10 years on the Wii.
Yeah, so that's what's disappointing about it, and I think that's what Pokemon should be striving for, rather than whatever they're doing. You know, it's like I think they have to take a hard look at the franchise after this game, these next two games.
I think after this they will. I think they're not going to come out with another Pokemon.
What they really want to do going forward, because they have like. It is a reality that we're not going to have every Pokemon in every game. Yeah. We all have to accept that, and I think they already know that, and they've said that.
They're going to have to reboot the franchise, obviously, but in a way where you can still have the same Pokemon, but like try to reboot it where they're like, hey, this is the reason why we're doing this, and I'd rather be open and honest with the fans, because we know we're not going to have some of your favorite Pokemon in this newer title, whatever, but this is what we're going with. Show gameplay. Show the Pokemon, try to do a poll or something, see which Pokemon are the most popular from each generation, and then put those Pokemon in there. I mean,
really work with the fan base, right? Yeah, Talk to the community. Talk to the community. So,
especially in Japan, because I mean, I'm pretty sure that's like their key people
demographic. Yeah. So I'm gonna be really interested to see how that game sells. I think it'll be fine, but I do wonder if it's going to be less than what they're kind of expecting, I guess, for that. But, all right, let's move on. Next story. Last week, or a couple weeks ago, actually. So, tariffs have been happening in the United States. Trump has been threatening tariffs, and we have had some tariffs go into effect, and more are going into effect over time, potentially going into effect over time. One of those was going to be on consoles, video game consoles. And Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo wrote the White House a letter basically explaining that this would be extremely detrimental to the video game industry. It would increase their costs that they would have to pass on to consumers, blah, blah, blah. A lot of it read to me like any corporation, self-interested corporation, kind of BS, like po, pitiful us kind of thing. However, the idea of tariffs is that you impose them on another country that you're importing products from, so that those products, companies will move manufacturing from those countries to your country, right?
Yeah.
Trump wants manufacturing to come back to the United States. And this makes sense for certain products. For things that are actually made in the United States now, it makes sense to put tariffs on those products, the ones that are being made here and elsewhere, so that they're kind of all brought back here. But the thing is, video game consoles have never been made in the United States. So the chances of them bringing them to the U.S., manufacturing in the U.S., is probably zero. So this is one of the most pointless. It's extremely pointless.
Is this on all electronics or just video games?
It's specifically on video game consoles in this one, but like, I mean, they're talking about tariffs for like literally everything. So anything is kind of up in the air at this point. Is potentially.
Well, I don't want to get political, but I think they need to be more strategic in what they do.
Yeah, I think doing it on video game consoles makes no sense.
Yeah, that's the only reason to bring it up, because it's on video games. But
yeah,
I've never heard of a console being made in America, like or the manufacturing of it.
I mean, maybe minor ones, like I don't even know.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of like maybe. I don't even think Ouya was made here. I think they've always been made in China.
Yeah,
like honestly, and Nintendo's moving some of its manufacturing to Taiwan, potentially as like a short-term kind of reaction to this. But I just don't think this isn't going to have the effect that they want, that Trump wants, and it's one of those things that's just going to hurt us. It's not going to hurt us as much as people, I think, believe. It's not a 25% tax on a $400 console. It's not going to make a $400 console cost $500. That's not how it works. Yeah. The tariff is specifically on the cost of the good coming into the country. So whatever it costs Nintendo to make in China, that's what the 25% is on. Okay. So it's a much smaller amount than I think people think, but it's still more, because they're not going to eat that. They're going to pass that on to us, whatever that is. Yeah. So hopefully it doesn't happen. I will say, reading their letter, it just was so like corporate self-pity that it just made me like, ugh. The whole thing is gross about it, but hopefully it doesn't happen. I mean, I know there's tons of industries that are kind of dealing with this right now. Board games is another one that has been a issue. So we'll see how it goes. All right, let's move on. We got some game announcements. Level 5, the makers of the Ni no Kuni franchise, the Professor Layton games, they're a very good developer. They have basically confirmed that a third Ni no Kuni game is in development. They didn't give any information beyond that. There's no release date or release window, but I think it was worth bringing up. I think this... the first game is the one I played. It is a good game. I didn't enjoy it as much, I think, as others, but I think it's a really good franchise. It's the very distinct art style. It's got that Studio Ghibli art style. Yep. I think they actually do the art for these games. So they look fantastic. The second one I think was received a lot less favorably than the first one.
Yeah, because they changed the combat.
It was much more action heavy than the first game. I don't even think you used familiars in the second game. Really,
this is a totally different story.
Yeah, it was like completely different characters and stuff. So, but apparently did well enough that they want to make a third game. So. That is exciting. You got anything?
No, I mean, I tell people all the time, if you want to know what a Pokemon game should play like, go play Ni no Kuni 1.
Ni no Kuni 1, yeah. No, definitely. That game, yeah, we talked about that last time. I think we recorded as well. Yeah. Next one, another franchise that plays the way Pokemon should play. So I do want to talk about this a little. So Yokai Watch 4. Yokai Watch is a franchise that... Actually, this is also level 5. Really? I forgot about that. Yeah, this is another level 5 franchise. Yokai Watch 4, which just came out in Japan a month or so ago, has been confirmed that it is coming west. It's getting a localization, and it is going to be coming west. No release date. I would assume it's probably going to be sometime next year or potentially early the year after in 2021, somewhere in there. These games seem to have a long localization time for level 5. But this game, I actually was watching a playthrough of this game on YouTube a couple weeks ago. And I have to say, the game looks really fun. It looks kind of rough around the edges, but the combat is action combat. It's an action combat game like Tales, sort of. Yes. I don't think it was like that in the past. I think this is a kind of a new. They're kind of breathing new life into the franchise, I think, with this game. Okay. But it's purely action now, and I gotta say, it looks pretty good, man. Like I'm into it. I love the designs of these yokai. I think they're really interesting. So when this game does inevitably come west, I think I'm going to pick it up because I've wanted to get into this franchise for a while, but this basically is what I want Pokemon to be, you know?
Oh, this looks really dope.
It does, dude. It does. It looks really fun. Like I'm really into it, and the story is kind of wacky and zany, but it's like interesting. There's some kind of time travel nonsense in there. So, I'm definitely excited to hear this news. I'm going to pick this up to support it because I really do believe this franchise kind of is what Pokemon should be doing.
And
you know?
Looks like 3, it looks like it was more turn-based, but it had a grid. Like, so still like, I don't know how you play the games where it's like still 3v3 or you got 3 party members, but depending on where you place them on that grid.
Yeah.
That's how it looks like 3 is set up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even a little minor change like that for Pokemon would be detrimental.
Yeah.
Like,
but they went pure action with this game.
And I think it's pretty awesome, yo.
Yeah. No, and it looked good. I watched through a significant amount of the playthrough of this game, and yeah, I'm excited about it. So, big ups to Level 5, man. They got a lot going on, dude. They're a pretty big studio. They got a lot of projects in the works, so looking forward to that one. We will, if they do announce a release date, we will certainly let you guys know whenever that happens. So, all right, moving on to the next one. This one is another interesting one. This was announced today, day of recording as well. So Amazon is going to be co-developing a free-to-play Lord of the Rings MMORPG.
I don't know how I feel about that.
So they had announced they're working on an MMO, I think September of last year, and that seems to be what this is. They're co-developing it with an LA-based developer, Athlon Games. They're a developer that is owned by the Chinese publisher Leyou Technologies. They own the Warframe developers.
Yeah.
So this is interesting because there's already a Lord of the Rings MMO that is free to play called Lord of the Rings Online. It came out like 12 or 13 years ago, so it's a fairly old game, but it exists. So it's interesting that they're making this. I also want to say too, I find it really intriguing that they're making this MMO when they're already working on that Colonial New World MMO at the same time.
They got 2 MMOs?
Yes,
now?
They're making 2 MMOs. And they're like, I mean, they're obviously that's like directly competing with each other. Obviously, one's fantasy and one's, in colonial America, but there's probably still some crossover there in terms of player base. So I find that a little weird. I
think they're just going to try to see which one works and then catch the other one.
Well, yeah, I could see that. I also think this is kind of a shit or get off the pot thing with Amazon Game Studios. They've been around for a while now.
Really?
Working on a lot of different games, and none of them have come out. They have not released a single game. So, do something. Because they have a lot of talented developers from like, it says it in this article, people that have worked on Destiny, System Shock 2, World of Warcraft, like all sorts of games, dude. So, I mean, they got to come out with something because I would be really intrigued to play either one of these games, and it's just there's no light at the end of the tunnel though. We have no idea when.
They're Amazon. They probably have a huge I'm gonna say bank.
For sure.
Yeah, they probably have a huge bank to work on this, and
they're just taking their time.
They're taking their time.
Yeah. I will say though, Lord of the Rings is one of those IP. It is one of the perfect settings for an MMO. It's just so rich, and it's just so much in it to explore.
I don't know how I feel about the free to play thing. I think it's just going to get free to play game I play is not. It doesn't hold my attention.
No,
because they have so much stuff. Because they try to appease to like gimmicks, I guess. I don't know what it is, but it's just like when I played a free to play game, I can never really get into it. I think it was only one free-to-play game I got into, like, really heavy. I can't remember the name of it.
I've gotten into a few, but
Like really,
I fell off within 2 months, probably.
Yeah.
1 or 2 months. I will say it's early in development, so they may change their mind.
Yeah, I think they should go.
They
should try to go subscription based, like cheaper, like maybe $5 or $6 a month or something like that. But
$10.
$10, okay.
15's a bit much. $10.
$10, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, do $10. You know.
Yeah.
Man, give me some hobbits and some elves killing.
I mean, that can be. It can be. Lord of the Rings has the potential to be the next World of Warcraft if done correctly.
Well, that's the thing with Lord of the Rings Online. That game was so disappointing because that game represented the world of Middle Earth beautifully. It's so amazing. It's so immersive in that way.
Yeah.
But the game itself sucked. It just wasn't fun to play.
Gotcha.
You know, it was fun to run around. It was fun to do quests, but like the combat wasn't fun at all.
It was like a standard MMO.
Yeah, it was just standard MMO combat. It didn't have any pop, and it didn't really have any impact the way like World of Warcraft did.
Like
you know,
cheesy animations.
yeah, it was a little too stale and generic looking. You know, but the world was amazing, dude. Like they recreated Middle Earth in just such a beautiful way. So. I hope this game sees the light of day because the Lord of the Rings MMO is awesome, dude. Like running around the Shire and going around Bree and like all those little areas like Rivendell and even some of the exploring outside of where we've been in the books is what's the cool part about this the potential of this too, because that's what Lord of the Rings Online did. The first original game had nothing to do with Mordor. Like you were nowhere near Mordor. It was it was all the northern areas that they don't go in the books, like what the hell was the name of it? Angmar. Yeah, Angmar is one of them. It's like there's like this old ancient kingdom called Angmar.
Yeah.
And dude, it's just like so immersive. And then they went to Moria with the first expansion. And dude, it's so cool. It's like this giant area. It's just all underground. It's just giant underground dwarven kingdom. And it's like super cool.
That sounds really dope.
It does, right? So if done right, it could be amazing.
I was thinking, about, like, how come they didn't? They probably don't have licensing, but how come no one has jumped on like a Game of Thrones MMO where we can explore other places?
I think that'll come at some point. Somebody will do it. The problem with Game of Thrones is I don't think it has as much potential because there's just not as much interesting. It's not high fantasy in the way that Lord of the Rings is. Yeah. There's no orcs, there's no goblins, there's no. It's just humans, really. You know, so I don't know how you make that interesting from an MMO standpoint.
You can do factions. I think the only way you can do that is to do factions, and they have players on different, like almost kind of how WoW set up. Mm-hmm. Players on different ones, and I mean the kingdoms kind of commingle. If we see someone. If PvE server, we automatically can fight them and they don't understand our language and blah, blah, blah. But I don't know.
You could have like the North too, where you're like above the wall fighting wights and wildlings and wargs and all sorts of stuff, right? And dire wolves.
Have like a actual player cohesive experience where it's almost like EVE Online. The players control the economy.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
They can like build castles and stuff. Yeah, and that would be interesting.
And then like one.
They have their own
controls King's Landing
certain parts of land and stuff. That would be really cool. Yeah. That would maybe be how you'd have to do it. Yeah, because if you did it like a traditional MMO, I just don't think it would be that interesting.
No, you would have to put a lot of innovation into it. Yeah, to where people will be battling for the Iron Throne. Maybe you get some kind of super buff or whatever.
You become like a candidate for the Iron Throne or something like that. That'd be cool, man. That'd be pretty cool.
It gets like a huge buff when you get a lot of resources, gold and armor, stuff like that.
And if you have the support of the people, you get more. You know, like if you can keep the people happy.
The people are players, though.
Yeah, that'd be interesting, man. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. All right, let's move on to game release dates. So a couple Digimon games. This is a new one called Digimon Survive. It was slated to come out this year. It is getting delayed till 2020. I know you're into the Digimon games. Was this one that was on your radar?
No, I didn't even know there was a game.
There's a lot of these, man. There's a lot of Digimon games floating around.
Yeah. This one says SRPG. I don't know what that one is.
Ooh, that's like a strategy RPG.
Oh, it is?
Like Fell Seal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's what SRPG means.
Yeah, so they say they're going to a more tactical or Which is okay. I mean,
Man, I might have to check this out. I like Digimon.
Yeah, so it says the journey is a difficult decision of deadly battles fought in 2D in a more SRPG style.
Okay.
Than Bandai.
Fair enough.
So, I mean, that's pretty cool. I thought they were going to go to, like, the more Digimon World-esque gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, Digimon has always had different styles of gameplay, and they always excelled at those gameplays, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Especially the Digimon Cyber Story, or the Cyber Sleuth. That game's turn-based.
Yeah.
But it's like really fun because you do have different Digimon that do different attacks, and you can fuse them and things of that nature. And the story's actually pretty cool too. So,
well, speaking of Cyber Sleuth, that is a game that came out, you said, 2 years ago, but it has a PC and Switch port coming out this year, and it has been dated for October 18th.
That is the perfect game for a Switch.
Really?
In my opinion.
Is it?
That's the reason I couldn't play it on my PS4 because.
I might check it out.
I like to play, unlike you, I like to play my JRPGs on the go because it's so long.
Well, it depends on the JRPG.
Yeah.
Like, ones that are really story-focused, I want to play on TV. Ones that are really grindy and, like, repetitive and aren't super story-focused, I like to play those on the go.
Okay.
So,
most, in my opinion, like, a lot of JRPGs are grindy in some aspects, so that's why I do like to play them on the go.
But, like, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, that is a story-focused... Yes, there's some grinding to it, but it's not... Like, it's a story-focused JRPG. I want that on my TV.
Yep.
You know? Like, Persona 4... That was the perfect handheld experience, man. That game was like a great handheld game.
That game should be handheld.
Yeah, and with Persona 5, all these rumors of Switch.
I'm thinking Persona 5.
But yeah, Persona 5, all these Switch rumors, they keep teasing me, man, because it's like I have the game on PS4, but it's like, man, play it on Switch.
I don't think that game's coming to Switch.
I play the hell out of it on Switch.
I would too.
Maybe with the XL, it'll come with the XL.
Yeah, we can keep hoping.
All right, moving on. Next game that was delayed. Psychonauts 2 was announced at E3 last month at the Microsoft conference. It has been confirmed that it's getting delayed to 2020 by Tim Schafer on the FIG site, which is the investment site.
Okay.
To invest in game ventures. So that's coming to 2020. I know that this is a franchise you enjoyed as well, right?
It was alright. I didn't really.
But you were excited about this when we talked about it, right?
Yeah, I mean it's another platforming game. I like platforming. It has a lot of puzzle elements to it, so.
Fair enough. Well, you'll be waiting till next year on that one. Okay. Next one, Witcher 3, Nintendo Switch.
This is so weird.
Looks like the date has leaked for it, and the date is September 24th.
I mean, can we see some gameplay? Do they have any release gameplay of it?
I think that maybe they do. We'll see. I can't wait to see how this game runs. I want to see the Digital Foundry technical breakdown of The Witcher 3 on the Switch. Frame rate, resolution, all that. I want to know it all. I want to know how this game runs.
If this game can run on the Switch, there is no excuse for like other games now. Like honestly.
I will say, I know people use this game as a game that pushes hardware, but I'm going to be honest with you. I actually think this game is super well optimized.
Okay.
And it's really a stable game. And I don't think it pushes hardware as much as people think it does. Like, it's a beautiful game. It's super well made.
Yeah.
But, dude, like, my computer, I had this shitty video card in it that has been struggling to run modern games. It runs The Witcher 3 on Ultra like a charm.
Really?
It did, yeah.
Okay.
So, I don't know. That's just my impression of it. So, we'll see how this game runs on Switch, though. I feel like your Switch is going to explode if you play this game for more than 5 hours at a time. Like, I mean, my Switch almost explodes playing Zelda in the dock. Like,
Really?
Dude, oh my God.
It's so hot.
I picked it up when I went to the bathroom the other day after playing it for a couple hours in the dock, and dude, the thing was scalding, like, in my hand. I'm like, oh my God. So, yeah, you can imagine what The Witcher 3 is going to do to the Switch, but we'll see. So yeah, September 24th. This is just a leak from a video game retailer in the Czech Republic, so take it with a grain of salt, but I think this is pretty legit, personally. I mean, the date makes sense. It's I don't see this being a game that's like, oh, it's gonna get delayed to 2020. This is one of those things when they're ready to announce it, it's pretty imminent, kind of thing. So, all right, next one. This is the last release date we have. This one is kind of a personal kind of game for me. So Gloomhaven is a board game that came out a couple years ago. It is it's like an RPG board game, basically campaign, multiple sessions, really long game, lots of story and stuff. It is getting a digital version though that was announced last year, and this digital version is actually going to be releasing in early access on PC next week on the 17th of July. I don't know if I'm going to buy it when it comes out on early access. However, they released a gameplay trailer, and I'm going to say it looks pretty good, man. It looks pretty good. Now, I will say this early access version is only going to have 4 classes of the 17 that are in the game at launch. It's also not going to have any of the campaign in at launch. It's only going to have the 4 classes and then a roguelike mode. So it's very, very bare bones. Be aware of that. Don't buy this if you were expecting a huge, robust experience. As I said, I may check it out depending on what it looks like. But I'm excited about this game, though. I think they're going to be pretty much recreating the board game in digital form, and it looks pretty impressive, honestly. That the trailer they showed is like the game is like the UI is really recreating the game's like feel and whatnot. So I'm very much looking forward to this game, and it's going to be co-op too, so I can play with other people as well. This because my brother and I want to play this game together, and this could be a good way for us to do it is through this game. So
it looks pretty fleshed out.
Yeah, man. No, it looks pretty legit. Like it doesn't look like trash. Like it that was what I was afraid of when this was originally announced, that it was going to be a trash heap. But no, it looks pretty polished now. So we shall see. So that's coming on July 17th. All right. Video game release dates or releases coming this week. As I said, that's coming this week. Let's see. What else do we have coming? Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 is coming this week.
It is?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, man. The 19th. Dragon Quest Builders 2 on PS4 and Switch, which that game looks pretty cool, man. If I had more time in my life, it'd be a game I'd want to play. Yeah,
that's definitely one of those games you buy when you're like 14, 15.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Dude, you get so much time out of that game.
Yeah.
There's a Harvest Moon game coming on PS4 and Switch this week. Interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, what is it called? Harvest Moon Light of Hope SE Complete.
Damn, I haven't even heard anyone talk about it.
Nope.
That's weird.
I mean, Stardew Valley is like taking over that whole thing. City Skylines on the Switch.
Okay.
That's pretty big.
They got God Eater coming out on the 12th.
Yep. Well. But that's pretty much it for this week.
No fake Monster Hunter.
Fake Monster Hunter? Is that what God Eater is?
To me, it is.
Pretty much. All right. Okay. Let's finish up this week with topic of the show. So there was a Wall Street Journal article last week about it was a pretty well-sourced article about Sony's strategy with the next generation PlayStation, and this article was so interesting that I printed it out.
Whoa, guys, he has paper
and highlighted interesting portions of the article. So I'm going to go through this, and then we're going to discuss each piece, right? So the first thing that this article says that I found interesting is that Sony's plan for the next generation is to focus on hardcore gamers who obsess over the latest features. It's kind of vague.
What does that mean?
We'll get into that in a few minutes. The next piece that I found interesting was PlayStation has become Sony's flagship consumer product. In the most recent fiscal year, the PlayStation unit, including services like video game subscriptions, led Sony's units with more than $21 billion in revenue and nearly $3 billion in operating profit.
Yikes.
PlayStation is Sony. at this point. Like, they are... my understanding of this is that they are hyper-reliant on PlayStation to be a profitable company. Like,
I heard rumors about that.
Yeah.
Way back when, in like 2016.
Yeah.
That like this was their saving grace, honestly, because everything else is like going downhill.
Yep. And it's been that. I mean, I think it's been that way for over 10 years. It's kind of trended this way. So they need to be careful with how they approach this next generation, because they really need it to succeed. This isn't like Microsoft that can get away with the Xbox failing for 10 years because they have other avenues in which they make money, right? Xbox is like a fun little side project for Microsoft. It's really not that big of a deal for them. So I do find it very interesting how much Sony is kind of relying on PlayStation now. I mean, $21 billion in revenue, that is a huge amount of money for a company. Obviously for Sony's a big company, but that's a huge amount of revenue for any company.
Yeah.
But the next piece that I found pretty interesting here is, quote, Sony sees Microsoft as its main competitor in the next generation, with Google a potential threat in the mid to long term as internet technology advances. They don't perceive Nintendo as a major rival because its main users tend to be younger than PlayStation's core demographic. So this is kind of in line with, I guess, how I see the field, right? I don't really consider Nintendo a competitor directly to Microsoft and Sony.
Yeah.
And I don't think Google is a threat in the short term either. And honestly, in the long term, mid to long term, I mean, they have to be wary of Google no matter what with this, but I don't think it's something they necessarily have to worry about this generation.
They don't have to worry about Google. Honestly, they just I mean, they're talking about their
Fair enough.
They're talking about their PlayStation Now stuff, but I don't nah, son.
But yeah, Microsoft is their main competitor. I will say, as we get deeper into this, like, them kind of brushing Nintendo off, like, I feel like
very disingenuous.
Well, it's disingenuous, but I think it's also kind of foolish in the same breath. Like, they've ceded a market to Nintendo that they used to be a part of.
Yeah.
They used to be part of the handheld market, and they just kind of let Nintendo have this, and I just don't get it. It's like, the PSP it sold like 80 million units. It's not a slouch of a device. And yes, the Vita was a colossal failure.
That was their fault, though.
But that was their fault, right? If they do it right, they could get a substantial foothold, I feel like, in handheld. So
I mean, people always reference the Switch as the Vita 2.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I know. I've seen that today with the announcement of the Nintendo Switch Lite. Like, it's I don't know. I just find it weird that they're kind of ignoring that whole realm at this point, which, I mean, it's to Nintendo's benefit. They can do whatever they want now, basically.
Yep.
Okay, next piece. I quote, a second Sony official said, the company believes people buy video game consoles to play graphics-heavy games. So this kind of goes back in line with the first point that we made about their focus is on gamers who obsess over the latest features. This is kind of in line with that. So this is the point where I kind of am like, I don't know about this. Like, obviously PCs can do more than any console can, for the most part, in terms of graphics. I mean, PC games always look better than console games do. But at the same time, I do kind of think this is true. I think people, even console players, I think they want beautiful games to play.
Yeah.
They care about graphics,
They do. They just want the game to look pretty.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'm trying to think of a game.
I'm thinking of the Uncharted's or Last of Us or even The Witcher.
Yeah.
It's a good example.
Like the fighting game King of Fighters.
Mm-hmm.
The game looks very bland, but from a technical standpoint, here's a great example. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. That game was ugly.
Yeah.
Ugly as shit.
Yeah.
But if you talk to any fighting game purist, that game had the best, like, character tag system in any Marvel game
Really?
thus far. Yeah, they really love that game in the combat system of that game. It was just the game looks like shit.
Yeah.
It looks like a cell phone game.
Yeah.
But
So harsh.
it does. It looks like that Marvel Strikers or Legends game they have, the little handheld game.
I don't know. Yeah, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's like a little handheld fighting game they have.
Okay.
On their phones. But yeah, the graphics, people prefer Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 4 or 3, and that game came out 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it looks better than this game. So I think graphics do play a bit in it, but it's just the way how you implement the graphics, because Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom looks like a comic book. Like, it looks like you're playing with a 3D comic book, and obviously with this new style they went with was just terrible, and people like, ugh, people didn't pick up the game because of that. I didn't pick up the game because of that.
Yeah.
And that's very shallow, but it's just like, I don't want to look at an ugly game. Yeah, it can have the best combat in the world, but if it's ugly, like, I don't want to play it, you know?
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. I mean, it kind of depends on the game, I guess.
Yeah, it depends.
I think for a more static game, like Fell Seal is a good example of this. This is not a game. I'm not going to say the game is ugly.
Yeah,
but it's the focus of the game isn't the art style necessarily, and it's not really the animations or anything like that. Like, that is the part of the game that you can tell that really, like, they didn't put as much into. But I don't mind it in that game because it's just not important. It's like,
because even if you play games like the Saga and stuff like that,
yeah,
I mean, there's only so much you can do with sprites.
The problem, dude, the Sky is a great example actually of the opposite.
Yeah,
is an SRPG that is focused on the animations and the art and whatnot. That game, I'm gonna be honest, is pretty shallow. That series, Disgaea, it's a very shallow RPG experience, and it's really focused on the large explosions and like the, you know, it's like style over substance.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying Disgaea is bad. Any Disgaea purists out there, I love Disgaea too, but But playing Fell Seal kind of pointed that out to me in my brain as like, yeah, this guy is like trying really hard to make you think it looks cool, whereas Fell Seal couldn't give a shit what you think it looks like. It's like, I'm good, just play me, you know. It's like, I feel like this guy is kind of on the opposite side of that spectrum for SRPGs. So it's like, it's an interesting point, but I would kind of agree with that sentiment. I think largely, like, if Call of Duty was ugly, do you think it would be anywhere near as popular as it is? No, right? No. Like, people do care about how a game looks.
Yeah, I think we do need powerful hardware, but I think it's just the way the style is implemented.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't have to always be realistic. Like, Ubisoft goes realistic all the time.
Yes.
With their games.
And that can be a detriment to their games.
Yeah, exactly.
Like with Division 2, for instance, I think that it just eventually just gets boring. Like, it's just not attractive to look at it at a certain point anymore, because I live in the real world. Like,
exactly.
I don't need to, like, Zelda's a good example. That game is like cel shaded. It's not like
they hide their graphics well.
Yes, and it still looks really attractive.
Yeah.
Like, they managed to make an art style that isn't super demanding, but at the same time looks good.
Yeah, and
you know?
That's how I feel about. That's exactly how I feel about Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom.
Yeah.
The art style is very attractive, but the way they did it, they can have fighters do crazy stuff on screen. All these animations have a crazy animation in the background, but you would think like millions of polygons, but it's like probably just a couple thousand every here or there, you know. So, whereas with this new game, they didn't go that route.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay, this next point is kind of multiple beats that are all intersecting. So I quote, Sony is concentrating its attention on large software publishers. Some executives at smaller game makers say they have felt snubbed by Sony in contrast to Nintendo. Sony still welcomes games from independent studios, but the emphasis is on strengthening relationships with large publishers since resources are limited. The thinking is that people buy a console to play high-quality games available only on that platform, not smaller games also available on smartphones.
On smartphones?
Yikes.
What
so
game?
This was the one that just made the alarm bells ring-a-ling-ding on me here. This is so overconfident that it is like because this last point is going to kind of link into this as well.
Yeah.
And I guess let me just read it so we can get into the full discussion. So, quote, Mr. Yoshida described the fifth generation PlayStation as dramatically increasing the graphics rendering speed, and it clearly demonstrates why it makes sense to have a next generation console. Sony is also looking to make more big budget games at its in-house software studios. Hideki Yasuda said he believes Sony's stress on large budget games could lessen variety and lead some customers to switch to rivals such as Nintendo. In contrast, second Sony official said he expected smaller games would still be released for the PlayStation even without extensive Sony support, because the popularity of PlayStation makes the platform hard for smaller game developers to ignore. So that whole thing there is, it just reeks of overconfidence.
So, yeah, this is what happens when
you win.
And not only that, you can win but still be like, to me, Nintendo.
Humble.
Yeah, Nintendo is winning right now, but I don't think they're not in the same position as Sony, so I can't really compare that, but I will go there. So even, let's say Nintendo wins this console generation, which in my opinion they are. They're winning the hearts of gamers, like true gamers. I don't want to say true gamers because that's like gatekeeping, but
Core gamers.
Whatever. Yeah. So because they're focused on video games, right? Then you got Microsoft, who's trying to do that as well. But this is what happens when all the rest of your products fail, or not fail, but they're not meeting expectations. Yeah. And now you got executives looking at like your game division now.
Yeah.
And now you got executives in the game division making decisions,
telling you what to do,
telling what the gamers want. And only thing that I agree with so far is the graphics thing, and that's like a 50% agree. Like,
yeah. Well, that being a focus is a red flag. Yeah. And I think it's so foolish of them to sit here when PlayStation is so important to their business as a whole, to sit here and be so overconfident that people are gonna bring their games to PlayStation no matter what. Like, yeah, PlayStation's popular, but dude, so was Xbox 360, and nobody gave a shit about Xbox One. Like, the shit can turn on a dime, man. Like,
yep, you're right.
If you neglect smaller developers, they're gonna go elsewhere. They're gonna make their games for Switch, and then they're gonna port to your console a year later.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen, and then nobody's going to buy the game because it's a year later and nobody cares.
And like, we already have this Microsoft Switch kind of,
cohabitation, relationship happening. Yeah.
So, I mean, people are going to start going to Xbox for like middleware, because I'm not even thinking about smaller indie companies. I'm thinking about like middleware companies, right? Like even though they're owned by like Ninja Theory now, or they're owned by fucking Microsoft, but like your Ninja Theories and things of that nature, companies that are middleware, they're not super high tier, but they're not low tier to make quality games. And we still have a couple of those companies out there, and I feel like it's even gonna, like, everyone's not looking for the middle class anymore. As far as games, either you're like higher class, AAA, or you're like poor or indie company wise. And it's
the mid tier is basically non-existent nowadays.
Yeah, and I feel like those mid tiers are what made games so good in the golden ages, like how we were discussing on one of our Reflect, the GameCube. Like, we had a lot of mid tier games because Monolith Soft wasn't like this grandiose people that we know of.
Not at all.
They were just like middleware Japanese company.
Yep.
So for you to like stiff them out, in my opinion, this is what that's doing. This is telling me we're not going for the.
They're focused on Call of Duty, Destiny, the big games. Yeah. Which seems like, obviously you want to give those games their shine, but at the same time, isn't it kind of dumb?
I think
because they're going to sell their copies no matter what, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like, I will say, going on the PlayStation Store is one of the most annoying experiences, because I go in the store and the first thing I see is the newest Destiny expansion or fucking Madden or FIFA. It's like, I know those games exist. Everybody knows those games exist. You don't have to put that as your front page. Like, show me games that I don't know about, you know?
Yep.
That's what they should be doing, dude, in my opinion.
Actually,
like,
everyone should, because Microsoft suffers from that as well when I go to their market.
Yeah, who needs to see Assassin's Creed Odyssey on the front page?
Yeah.
Like, I know what this game is.
Yeah,
you know, it's like...
They should change their UI, like, hey, have you tried this new indie game out or something like that? And I'm not going to lie, Microsoft sometimes does that, but it's not frequent enough at all.
Yeah. Yeah, both of these companies I do feel like have kind of waned in their support of indies over time. I mean, Xbox was the first one with the Xbox Arcade that really like started this with indies, and then, you know, PlayStation kind of followed the leader with it and did their own stuff, like PlayStation Loves Indies and all these other programs they used to do.
That's the problem right there. I think no one has touched on this. They're never the leaders of anything.
Sony? No. Well,
okay.
PS2 they were.
They were. Okay, that's a good point.
Putting a DVD player into the PS2 was
next
a stroke
level.
of genius.
Yeah, that was next level.
Yeah, and I think that sold a lot of those units.
It did.
It really did.
But since then, what have they really like? Well, you know what? I think they did the PlayStation like game deal. What do they call what's their version of Xbox Gold?
Oh, PS Plus.
PS Plus.
Yeah,
they started that.
They
right?
did innovate with that, with giving away free games.
Yeah,
with that was that. But see, this is the thing. This is the kind of the ebb and flow with them is. That was in a time frame where they were behind.
Yeah.
They were where Xbox is now, and they were trying to catch up, and they were desperate to catch up, so they were doing a lot of consumer-friendly practices, and PS Plus was one of those things. It was like $50 a month, I think, and they were giving away like 4 games a month.
Yeah.
And these were not shitty games.
Oh, yeah.
They were giving away good shit,
yeah.
dude, like on PS Plus. And now we're at the point where we're down to 2 games a month, and they're... Some months are good, some months are bad, and then you have situations like this month where they had PES 2019 as the free game, and then they just pivoted a day before the games were going to go live to like they took PES off for God knows what reason. They didn't say why, and then they made it Detroit Become Human, which is a good game, but it's like I don't know.
You remember when the PS3 generation, PlayStation Online was free?
Yes.
Before PS4 came out, then it became you had to do a subscription model. And that was, to me, groundbreaking as well, because they got a lot of people on their platform. They got a lot of people who look at the stuff like that, and they got a lot of people hooked. They're like, damn,
the PS4's success started at the end of the PS3 generation.
Yeah.
Like, I will say 2011 probably through 2013, Sony was really doing some really cool shit.
Yeah.
Their games were starting to fire on all cylinders. Like their first party was really starting to kick ass.
Yeah.
And they themselves were doing all these cool things with PS Plus, and their, as you said, their network being free, even though their network sucked.
Yeah.
You know, like they had all this stuff going on, and I think a lot of that really contributed to the beginning of the PS4 when Microsoft face planted at E3, and they took advantage of it, but they already had this groundswell kind of building.
Yeah.
And that really was just them dunking, and like they just ran away at that point. And Microsoft screwed up so badly that they gave Sony the game.
Yep.
You know? But I think the like, for instance, talking about the innovation, right? This quote here like really kind of says it all, right? With this next generation of PlayStation. As much as we talked about it, we're excited about it. You know, Shuhei Yoshida, quote, described the 5th generation PlayStation as dramatically increasing the graphics rendering speed. Clearly demonstrates why it makes sense to have a next generation console. Like, why do you even have to say that?
That should be
like
automatic.
that seems like you're grasping at straws why this thing even needs to exist. And it's like, obviously a next generation console needs to exist.
Yeah.
But it's just a weird thing to say. Dramatically increasing the graphics rendering speed? Like,
well, I mean, he is right in that aspect.
yeah, but is that a selling point to a consumer?
To an average consumer?
No.
Well, they did say they're targeting for hardcore gamers.
I don't even think for hardcore gamers that's a selling point. That's for developers.
Yeah.
That is a developer selling point.
Yeah,
and it's just a weird thing to say.
I do get amazed when I do talk to a lot of hardcore gamers and they don't really know about the hardware aspects of the consoles.
They don't. Very few people know.
Yeah,
this is it's a rare thing to be into games the way we are.
Yeah,
it's pretty rare. Yeah. I don't know very many people who know game studios and who the first party for Microsoft and Sony are.
Yeah.
Very few people know that information. They don't care. They care about the games. You know, that's what people care about.
Yeah. So, I mean, just from what I'm hearing, I don't think it's going to be as bad, but I think we're in for another PS3.
I think we're just in for a fight. I think it's going to be a dogfight.
Really?
I think Xbox is going to bring the heat, and
because PlayStation's already on top.
I think
now.
it's going to be really even. I'm going to be honest, for a while, and I think somebody will pull away, but it will be whoever has the better games and the better features.
Well, I feel like that, and I feel like this is going to be funny. In the 6th generation, right? PlayStation was that be all. Like, go there for every game you want. That was like, it may not have the best graphics, better graphics than the Xbox, but you can go there for any game you want. Then you had your Nintendo GameCube for your obscure games and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Then you had your Xbox, which was the competitor. Like, if you have an Xbox, then you can get a lot of the games that were on PlayStation, but you couldn't get all the games, right? I feel like it's going to be the reverse now. I feel like PS5 is going to be the Xbox of the 6th gen, if that makes any sense, right?
Yeah.
And then I feel like, I don't want to say Xbox 2 or whatever they're going to call it is going to be the PlayStation 2 of that generation, but I think it's going to be damn near close.
Yeah.
It's going to have a lot of games. They probably would never touch that Japanese market just because how that market is very specific in what they pick as their go-to console. But I feel like that mantle for Japanese is going to go to Switch, like, hands down.
I mean, I think it's already there.
Yeah.
Like, because they're very handheld focused in Japan.
Yep.
Like, they don't have...
And that's what they're not focusing on. I feel like they're focused too much on the Western...
They're focused on the United States.
Yeah.
That's literally what they're focused on. I don't think they care about any other region. I think that's all that matters to them. And
that's sad.
That is so single-minded to a really dangerous degree, because what if they lose here? They're done. Like, dude, the thing is...
I think the Switch is really going to surprise me. The simple fact that they said they don't perceive Nintendo as a major rival. That's what they said in the article, and that's scary to me. I would be, if someone said that to me, and I'm like... And I was on their board, and I knew video games or whatever. Like, I'm pretty sure they have some people on their board who knows video games. And they're just like... I don't think that's a good move, man. Like,
Nintendo's flourishing right now, man. Yeah. I think we're in the beginning of a really, like, special period for them. Yeah. You know? And the thing with Sony is, like, you're big enough where why do you have to be so laser focused on this one vertical? Why can't you can't also focus on indies at the same time? Like, you're not capable of doing that. You can't focus on Japan, you can't focus on Europe, you can't do all these things at once. You can't make your interface better, your network better. Like, these are all things you should be doing.
I feel like they put America or the NA and Europe in kind of the same stratosphere.
Yeah.
But in the same sense, I think I think both companies do, actually. Xbox and Sony, they kind of put them in the same stratosphere.
Yeah.
But I think Nintendo is the only one who kind of realizes, like, Europe is kind of different from
it is.
They recognize that, and certain game companies too recognize that, because you know how Final Fantasy has different versions of the game. Back in the PS2 and 3 generation, they had different versions of the game. They had the PAL version, and then they had the international version, then they had the North America version of certain games, stuff like that. And Nintendo kind of recognizes that, because a lot of games that do come to Europe and Japan don't even come here until, like, months later. Yeah. And it's just like, why? And they understand that Europe is kind of different from us in a sense. Yeah. And Sony, I don't think they're recognizing that. I think the executives are letting themselves get too much into the lead with this, or they're putting their hands into the cookie jar a little bit too much, whereas they should just let whatever the game division was doing, just let them do what they're doing. Like, we're going to step back. Obviously, what you're doing is working.
The sad part, though, I think a lot of the leadership from the end of the PS3 generation is gone, man. Yeah. Like, a lot of those guys moved on to different companies. Like, they don't work at Sony anymore, so... It's just different people running the show, and we'll see how it plays out. I mean, Sony's gonna be fine. I'm not like worried about them going out of business or anything like that. Yeah. I just think I think they
I just don't want them to pull an Xbox.
Oh, dude, they just seem a little bit too comfortable. They seem a little bit too comfortable. I mean, because they trounced Xbox. They're about to eclipse 100 million units sold on the PS4, which is astounding.
Yeah.
Like 5 consoles have done that in the history of video games, you know?
Yeah.
It's insane. But that doesn't mean the next device is going to win, you know? Like each generation is its own thing, you know? Getting people to make that jump from PS4 to PS5 is going to be hard.
Yep.
It's not going to be easy, especially if these things are as expensive as we think they're going to be.
One thing they didn't mention on here was backwards compatibility. I thought that would have been a huge selling point, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, but we already know that's confirmed, though.
Oh, that was
They
that
already
confirmed?
They already confirmed that.
Okay,
Yeah. So
okay.
no, that's. I mean, that's a thing. But the problem that doesn't matter though when your console costs $600.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's a huge investment to ask people to make for a video game console. That is a huge investment. So,
I don't know, man.
we'll see.
I'm kind of scared. This article did kind of scare me. I went into it kind of positive, and I'm like,
No, there's a lot of red flags
yeah,
hidden in here. Yeah, for sure. Like they're just. I don't like how one track they are. I just don't. Like focusing on AAA games just seems dumb.
yeah. Just looking at this line chart, I'm in the head of an executive right now. I'm like, okay, we're shipping Steam all the way to video games now. So what you guys doing over here? Oh no, I gotta go. Oh this nah.
Yeah,
this is how you make more money.
Dude, like video games for them is like 60% of their business.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like, according to this. So we'll see. I don't know. We keep talking about Sony, and I keep hammering this point home that I am concerned about their mentality. It's a concerning situation, but I'm really excited for the reveal of the units.
I am
of like the official reveal of it.
Yeah, I just want it to be. They are right. More people do go tied to first party games, but what kind of first party games are you going to have? Are you going to have more generic?
They're putting all their eggs in one basket with that. They're all third person action games that are story focused. Almost every one of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
With Sony, right?
Yeah, and how
many of those can you make before people get sick of them?
Exactly.
I'm already sick of them. The only reason I'm not sick of them is because they're good. The thing is when you make a Days Gone, though, I don't want to play that because the bar is so high. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to play a 7. I want to play a 9.5.
Yeah,
you know?
I want to play another considered Last of Us.
God of War.
God of War. I want to play
another God of War.
Yeah.
Right? And if it doesn't hit that point, I'll go a little down, but I'm not gonna go that far down. Like you making your game so good that like my expectations are like way up here, you know. So I don't know. They that's been the thing with their E3s that I mean everybody consistently freaks out and always says they win E3, but their E3s are literally always. They're all third-person games, every one of them. They're not doing anything interesting. They don't have any shooters. They don't have any multiplayer games.
Yeah.
They have one racing game.
Crash.
No.
That's not even. That's multiplat.
Gran Turismo.
And that's canceled, right? Or not canceled, but about to shut down.
No. Gran Turismo Sport?
You said who?
Gran Turismo Sport.
Yeah, I thought that was about to get shut down.
Is it? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I thought like
that series has been waning in popularity over the years.
Yeah, I thought no one was playing that game, and they're like, "Yeah, we're about to shut this down."
But yeah, they have that, and then that's really it. They don't have a lot of diversity. Like, and they have Dreams, but who cares what Dreams?
Yeah,
I mean. So
I'm trying to think what else they can. I mean, I love third person games. Like I absolutely love.
I do too, but I don't want every game I play to be that. You know,
I absolutely love it. I just don't. But I don't want the.
I don't need them all to be Uncharted style.
Yeah,
right.
Like make me some Devil May Cry game. Devil May Cry action
right?
games. Or
yeah,
something like that.
And even that they went away from that.
Yeah.
With God of War, like they turned that into a third person action game, and that game's amazing.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but I remember when that game was announced, that E3 that game was announced, I was like, ugh.
Everyone was like that.
They're all third-person action games. They're turning God of War into a third-person action game. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I was really upset about it. So, as much as the game was fantastic...
Because they used to have a first-person shooter, Resistance.
No, Killzone. Well, yeah, Resistance. But that was second party. That was made by Insomniac.
But that was their game.
It's
though.
their IP.
Yeah, it was their...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Killzone's the one that's made by Guerrilla.
Yeah.
That's their, like, Halo, basically.
Okay.
Their version of Halo. Which they made one at the beginning of the generation, Shadowfall, but
It didn't sell that well.
didn't do super well.
Because that looks more generic, too.
Yeah.
They didn't really do anything interesting with the Hellgast, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting concept. But
So I just want them to diversify the portfolio a little bit, but they don't seem to be interested in doing that.
yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. I think it's gonna be announced. I think if they're smart, they announce it at PSX this year.
Yikes.
That's the perfect place.
I thought they weren't doing any more PSX.
Well, they didn't last year, but they didn't have an E3 conference, so I mean, they got to have something at some point.
I don't think they're going to do anything this year. I thought that was like their last
They're
year.
gonna do a state of play.
Yeah. That's
They're gonna do a state
now.
of play where they announce the PS5. No way. There'll be a press
No.
conference.
I think they're going to do... And from what I understand, I thought PSX last year was their last PSX. And I thought, like, going forward, especially with this announcement of state of play stuff, like, they're just going to do weekly stuff. And then maybe next E3, they may do, like a conference or something like that.
I think PSX will be back.
I doubt it, but I could be wrong.
I just think it'll be back. I think it's a perfect place for them to announce their games. It's literally a conference dedicated to them.
It was trash last year.
Well, it didn't happen last year.
Well, exactly.
Past year. 2 years ago, it was trash.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, they didn't have a PSX, and then they didn't
But
have an
think
E3.
about it. They blew their wad at E3. They didn't do that this year. They didn't blow anything at E3 because they didn't have an E3. So PSX is perfect.
Okay.
You can announce the console, then announce a whole bunch of fucking games, and then at E3 next year, you announce even more games. You know? Like, dude, they could knock it out of the park if they did it right.
Okay.
And dude, PSX, you're going to have an audience full of ravenous PlayStation fans. Literally your biggest fans who are willing to spend a shitload of money to come and watch a conference of yours. Like, I can't think of a better place to announce the PS5.
Okay.
Can't think of a better place. You want to do it surrounded by a bunch of media people? I mean, sure, but come on, man. Dude, they'll get a standing ovation if they show that box at PSX. Not even kidding. A standing ovation. Like, so just do it, Sony. Just do that, okay? Just do that. Do that. You'll win next gen.
They're not going to... I mean, they are going to be in competitive... They're going to be in a competitive, position for it.
Yeah.
But from what they're talking...
The thing is,
I
think they're in pole position. Microsoft really needs to bring the heat with the exclusives. If they can't manage that, Sony's still going to be on top.
Microsoft can't cancel anything because they always do this shit.
Exactly.
Where they announce all these games.
They bought all these fucking studios these past 2 years. They need to be releasing games.
Yeah.
They better have a shitload of launch games coming from these studios.
They cannot cancel
for
anything.
Scarlet. Like, don't cancel these games. They need to be good. They need to be ready to go. They need to look good. They need to be diverse.
Yeah.
As well.
It's not like they're bleeding money. I mean, they're Microsoft. They have money.
Yeah, they have money, but they need... If they want Xbox to succeed, though, there's a way to do it.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. All right. That's all I got.
That's it for me.
Alrighty. Well, if you like this episode of the show, please like the show wherever you're listening to it. Review the show. Subscribe to the show. And if you could, share it with your friends. We'd like to build the audience. If you want to talk to us on Twitter, Montrell is at iTrap4TheHokage. That is the number 4, not the word. I am at ThunderNut01, and the podcast is at The Player's Take. If you want to ask us questions, you can send it to us on Twitter, or you can email us at theplayerstake01@gmail.com, and we will certainly answer your questions on the show. Next week, more news.
Yep.
I think we're going to record one of our Reflections episodes.
Yeah, we probably are.
Here, so look forward to that. And we hope you enjoyed this one, guys, and we will see you on the next one. All right, bye, guys.